and welcome back to the video series. This is going to be video 5 and we're going to go over life safety and property protection. If you're new to this channel, I'm going to go ahead and reintroduce myself. My name's Kayla. I'm an occupational therapy student at the University of St. Augustine for Health Sciences, and in this video series we're going to be addressing disaster planning for people with spinal cord injury, their caregivers, or other occupational therapy practitioners. The first thing that we often see when a disaster strikes is damage to your property. Property damage also depends on the magnitude of the natural disaster. You could have minor damages like just a fallen tree branch or a fallen bush, but there could be more drastic damages like broken windows, a broken roof, or even structural damage. A huge part of property damage during a natural disaster can be prevented or lessened by routine maintenance. If you live in a place that is prone to natural disasters, you should always keep up with maintenance or find someone who can help you. Things like keeping up with your smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms are very important in case of a fire, especially forest fires. You should also have heavy and large objects secured or drilled into the walls, for example, like a dresser or a TV stand. Make sure you're protecting your water system by cleaning out your sewage drain or your storm drains if that's connected to your house. Sometimes that is the responsibility of the city, so if you see that things are getting clogged, you should make in a maintenance call or request. Taking care of rotten trees as well as damages around your home might impact the magnitude of damage in an emergency situation. On top of property protection, you should be protecting yourself and your family in times of a disaster. In the literature, a lot of people who have a spinal cord injury end up having an increase in autonomic dysreflexia episodes. Autonomic dysreflexia, also known as AD, which I will be referring to as AD from now on, is often caused by many different things depending on what triggers you in your autonomic nervous system. However, during a disaster, it's mostly contributed to bowel and bladder changes, changes in temperature regulation, bright light, dehydration, and skin irritants. Some of you watching might already know the signs and symptoms of AD or have experienced AD before. If you want to go ahead and fast forward this next section, you can go ahead and do so as you please, but I'm going to provide a brief overview of the signs and symptoms and what to do during an AD episode. For those of you that don't know, AD is commonly found in people who have a spinal cord injury from T6 and above. I'm going to go ahead with talking about the symptoms and signs that you might see above the level of the spinal cord injury. That might include slow or fast heart rate, a sudden increase in high blood pressure, also known as hypertension. You might also see goosebumps, clamminess, as well as anxiety or an uneasy feeling. Some other things they might feel above the level of the injury is nasal congestion, pounding headaches, as well as changes in vision. If you are in a shelter and there is first responders, EMS, or volunteers who are trained, you can go ahead and notify them if you know you are having an AD episode and need assistance. If your family member is with you and they are familiar with the symptoms, you can also ask them to help or reach out for help. So for those of you that are not familiar on what to do if a person is having an AD episode, the first thing you should look for are triggers. Some triggers that a person might experience is things on the skin, wrinkles in clothing, not stimulating the bowel and bladder, or kinks in the catheter line. You should never lay someone down if they're having an AD episode. You want them to sit upright with their hips and their trunk or body at a 90-degree angle. If emergency personnel or EMS is available to you and you cannot figure out the causes of your AD episode, please go ahead and seek medical attention. If you can figure out the trigger and you're slowly trying to work towards lowering that blood pressure, keep checking your blood pressure if you have a blood pressure cuff next to you or if your caregiver can help. If you take prescription medicine for AD, go ahead and notify your caregiver if that's what you need, as well as any emergency personnel if you're in a shelter. Keep in mind you might not have access to emergency personnel during a disaster if you're sheltering in place, so having those safeguards in place and trying to prevent those triggers is very important. We often commonly see an increase in pressure sores as well during an emergency, so this is a reminder to keep up with your pressure relief routines. If you're sheltering in place, you might be in your wheelchair or in a seat for longer than you expected. Same thing with evacuation, you might be in the car longer than expected. If you're in a shelter or a hotel or a family member's house, you also might find yourself in a bed that's not your own and not able to perform pressure relief vibrations or adjustments. Just a reminder, if you're seated, you should pressure relieve every 15 to 30 minutes for at least 90 seconds, or if you're laying down, you should turn every 2 hours. If you're seated, you could go ahead and use those upper extremities to help relieve pressure on your bottom or lean side to side. If you can, lift your legs and move your heels around, especially if you're sitting in a car. You might not be able to stop at a rest stop, especially if the traffic is bad when evacuating. If you're in a bed, you can turn or have someone help you turn every 2 hours. I'm going to end this video with just a reminder that you might not be able to complete these things by yourself and you might need to ask for help. Asking for help is always okay, but make sure you self-advocate and be as descriptive as possible so that your safety is their top priority. Caregivers always advocate for your loved ones as well if they cannot advocate for themselves or if you need help taking care of them during an emergency. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can either email me or leave it in the comment section below. My email is always going to be linked in the description box. In the next part of our video series, videos 6 through 10, we're going to go over specific hazards and what you should do for them, so stay tuned for that.